Welcome guys, this is Sakura Apparel. I'm going to be showing you guys a tutorial of how I stitched out this Yuki hoodie. Before we get started, if you guys could just leave a quick like on this video, it would mean so much because it supports small businesses like me that want to share information with you guys about embroidery and also digitizing. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the video. Alright, so if you guys can see on my screen right here, I'm going to show you guys, I have a few options right here. So a digitized open shape and then a digitized closed shape. Now, what I always start off with my steps is that I always start with a satin outline. So a satin outline is going to be with a digitized open shape, and I'll show you guys the difference of what they do and how you use them. And then we're going to go over here to our object properties, and I want you guys to pay attention to this part right here. So we have a single run, a triple run, and a satin. I have never used any of the other ones, and I don't recommend using them. I fiddled with them a little bit just because I was curious. You guys can, mess around with them if you'd like, but I have never used them personally, and I wouldn't recommend that you guys use them unless you know what you're doing, or if you have something that's built towards a purpose towards using that, because there are uses for it, but it's not pertaining to me because I do these kind of embroideries and I don't need them. So what I usually use for outlines is satin stitches for the width. And then let me break this down for you guys because I had a little questions for this one. What should I put in this? Depending on how wide you want your stitch to go, that's what it means. How wide do you want this to go? So a normal preset for me on my machine, everybody's machines are a little bit different, is I put 0.40 or maybe 0.45, just make it like a little bit thicker. But that is as good as it's gonna get. That's as big as I would go for something like this. If you were making, say, like a border, here, let me show you guys something I'm working on right now. If you're making like a border around a character, I would make that probably a little bit thicker, maybe around like 0.100. For this one, like instead of doing digitized, you could do digitized closed shape, or you can do a rectangle. It just makes it all even and like a straight linear, so that's why I choose that. Click outline, we'll click satin, and then I will change this to 100. Click enter on your keyboard, and that'll input that right there, and we're gonna click right here and then go right there. As you can see, it's a thick outline and it contrasts with this outline right here, which I put as 41. As you can see, the width of it just gives it a nice look. You don't want everything to look the same. You want to have some contrast to give it a little bit of a pop. This one I put 0.74. Honestly, I don't know why, but I just did it as that and I'm rolling with it. That's just a brief explanation of width. I usually do around like say 125 if it's like a really huge design. I'm trying to see if I have another one. I don't have another one on hand, but that's usually what I would put. Like 0.125 is ideal for a border that you're doing, like that's going to be like a rectangle across the center of the chest. I would use that. However, since I'm just doing for this design, I'm probably just going to do just the outline of his face, just like you saw with the Kakashi. I'm just going to do an outline of his face. And I'm just gonna leave out a border because there's not really a need for it. So I'm just gonna put 42. Wait, 0.042 actually. So sorry about that if I've been confusing anybody. If it's a little bit too big, that's why. So 0.042. I'm gonna leave it as that. I'm gonna leave it as digitized open shape, and we're gonna go ahead and start running this. The first step I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start making this outline around the whole entire body. I'm gonna start right here, and then actually let me explain this real quick. But what I'm doing with my mouse is I am clicking a right click, a right click, a right click, and a left click. To explain why I'm right clicking it is because these lines are curvier, and as soon as I reach the corner, I'm gonna close it off by clicking a left click, which is a straight line. Right here we have a little bit of a curve, so I'm gonna right click right here, and then I'm gonna left click right here because it ends the curve. If I continue clicking right click, what would happen is it would just continue curving, and it would kind of like make it like a weird wiggly line. So say I did that again. Let me do this again. So I right click and I right click again. It looks good, right? But if you right click again on your next part, like right this little node right here, it's gonna make this weird curvature line, and that is because you didn't end the line with a left click. A left click closes it off, so the next one is a brand new fresh one. Left click right here, I'm gonna right click right there, and then left click up here. Pretty simple, right? Now I'm just gonna go through the rest of it. I might not talk as much because I like to focus on these parts, just get it over with. Right here, I don't know what his head shape was, but I'm just gonna assume it's a circle. and then if my customer has any issues with it, she'll let me know, and then we'll continue to push on from there. All right, so let me drag this up. It looks a little bit awkward, and I'll get to that part a little bit later. Let me just finish this part and we'll get to the whole reshaping, what I just did right there. Okay, so we're gonna finish this hair right here, and bam. That looks appropriate enough it's good enough for me for his head. Push it a little bit up, and then let's push this a little bit down. Okay, let's recap of what we just did. We just made the little satin outline of his one-side face. I'm going to do his hands next, but what I wanted to show you guys is what I just did, which is I reshaped the pattern right here. To find reshape, if you guys are curious, you just click edit objects and you go to this part right here. It says reshape. Now what this does is that, as you can see right here, it shows you the nodes of what you've been clicking, and the circle ones are the curvy ones, the square ones are the straight ones. So like I was saying, you could see exactly what I'm doing, and this is a good tip, especially if you buy designs. So if you buy designs, check the nodes. The nodes will never lie to you. You will always be able to tell what they did and how they did it. So if you're ever curious on like quality control, I did a little segment about this my last video, is that basically what I did was I checked out the nodes, and there was just so many. So if you find like something with like just a bunch of nodes like this, that means they did it in an automatic digitizer and they didn't do it by hand like I'm doing right now. And that is bad news, because you usually can't trust those kind of things. They're going to take up a lot of stitch time, and they might jam your machine, honestly. Just be wary of that if you do it yourself. But for us, what we're doing, we're just going to be checking this out, and we're going to just slightly adjust it. All you have to do is just drag it with your left mouse and then just drop it wherever you'd like. What I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to look at the hair strands and just make sure they're not clumping too much. So an example of like what clumping too much would be like that. Like I don't, you can't put anything underneath that. It's just like, that's just 3 satin stitches over the top of each other, and it's a huge no-no because it's going to jam your machine and it's probably going to need to rethread it. So that's appropriate. I'm a little bit okay with that. I'm going to push it out just a tad bit more so there's a little bit more breathing room for the machine, and that's good. So this part right here, like look at that. So speaking of the devil, that is what a clumping kind of looks like. It's a little bit too close for my liking. So I'm going to push it out here, and then I'm going to push this a little bit inward so it's not as deep. And there you go. Now the satin stitch is looking good. That is going to go through the machine perfectly, and nothing is going to snap. So your needle might snap if that does happen. So just be wary of that and know what to do. So now let's do the next part. So if you're wondering, we just recap over that. So we did the reshape. All right. So now we're going to do his hands. So the hands are a little bit more trickier because he has these little fingertips that are sometimes fingertips are very like tight and basically like really tiny, and it's very hard for a machine to do. This one looks like it's perfect because it's a really big version of his hands. They're not tiny. So I'm just gonna go through this. I'm just gonna do the outline. I'm not gonna do in between his fingertips. Alright, so we're almost done with this. Just going through this real quick and trying to make it as good as possible. And that's just a bunch of right clicks right here because they're all curvy. And a left click to end it off. And we have this little part right here, so I'm also going to do this real quick. Yeah, alright. And then I click enter on my keyboard to finish the line. So once you're done stitching it out, you're going to click enter on your keyboard, and that's going to basically make the line. So after I do this, I click enter, boom, now it appears. Okay, so we have our outline, and now what's to do next is to digitize a close shape. Now, to digitize a close shape, we have all these little things around us, just like, we got digitize holes, we got, digitize close shape, we have fills, outlines, all this stuff, just so you guys don't get confused, what we're going to do is we're going to click fill. Very first thing you're going to do is click fill. Now, you as well have a bunch of stuff over here. So you have tatami, you have satin, you have 3D satin. Same rule applies. I have never touched any of them. I might, dabble with them a little bit later, but I don't have any plan to. As of currently, I don't have anything that I need for it, so I'm not going to do it. So I have done embossed. Embossed, if you're interested, like what that does is I would mainly use it as like a background, a satin background. If you're making like any type of design, like a hoodie, you could put that as a background. You know, it kind of gives it like a weird, like, I guess, you know, cool little vibe to it. So your choice. And then the satin, that is, of course, we're going to use sat, and then tatami is going to be the main one. The patterns, leave it as is. Don't mess around too much with it. I usually just use one. You can maybe mess around with like 1, 2, or 3, but don't go past any of those because those just basically become embossed at that point. And so stitching. So I want to move into the rest of this actually too, just so we're here. So effects and stitching. Somebody asked me like what I put as my values inside this. You guys can take a look at them, but I don't touch anything. It has an automatic function, which is nice about Hatch, is that they already have everything for you, so you don't need to touch anything. You can just go ahead and start, and it'll automatically adjust it for you. So the same thing with stitching as well. Underlay wise, there is an importance to underlay. However, it is not as deep as you guys think it might be. As long as you have at least an underlay, so this right here, as long as you have, it already has 2 underlays for you, so you don't need to worry about it. Edge run and tatami, that's all you need. Edge run just kind of just goes around it and just fills in the extra spaces, and the tatami is just going to make this little tight, little packed place right here. Now, if you do want to make it a little bit more tighter, if you're finding some like inconsistencies with like you could see the background of your patch, then you could turn the spacing a little bit tighter. But that's about it. That's all I do, and I mess with the pull compensation just a tad bit. Now, it is already at 0.008. That's perfect for me. Sometimes I put it up to 0.10. And to explain what it does is that basically if you are making a circle, it's a really bad circle. If you are making a circle, what happens when you stitch it out is the top kind of gets squeezed in and the left and the right side get pulled out. And that's what they mean by like pushed and pull. And what happens to combat that, you have push and pull compensation. Is what it does is that it will automatically stitch it. So it'll stitch it basically more squeezed in like this, and it'll pull it out just a little bit more right here, so that your design isn't kind of like warped in a way. So it automatically does this for you so that you don't have to worry about this. That's why I do not touch it. However, I put a little bit in there because sometimes like it's not filling in the gaps. You can usually just reshape and just move the colors into the space where it looks missing on your design. I know that kind of sounds weird, but once I actually show you guys, it will make a lot more sense. So everything else, so I leave as is. I don't touch anything. I just leave all that, and yeah. So let's go ahead and start with our digitized code shape. So now I'm going to put in the correct threads. So I'm going to click threads right here, and then I'm going to put in tan because I'm using ivory right now. I don't want that. We're going to use tan because obviously his skin is tan. It kind of looks more mocha, honestly. So I might be using a different thread, but we're going to simplify this as well because there are some colors on here which I do not have. So this one looks like it's it's supposed to be like a dark gray, maybe like a really dark brown, but obviously I don't have a dark brown. Oh, I do have a dark brown, but it's kind of pointless to do it for this. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of think of it. I just think of like what threads I have on hand. Now that we're done with our thread changing, I'm looking at all this stuff and it looks like I have everything. So all we have to do now is just start clicking whichever one that we want to use and just going at it. So I'm just going to go ahead and exactly like the same thing as a satin outline. We're just kind of going with the lines and we're right clicking or left clicking to what is appropriate to that. So this is a straight line, so I'm going to left click it. This is a kind of a curve, so I'm going to right click it. And then once I get to this little corner, I'm going to left click it, and so on and so forth. Let me go ahead and start doing the rest of this, and I'm going to shut up a little bit so that I can concentrate. So don't worry if I'm not ignoring you guys. I am just trying to show you guys how to do this, and also make sure that I maintain quality in my design too. So I'm pressing, you can't really see what I'm doing with my hands, but what I'm doing is I'm clicking enter on my keyboard every time I'm done with one part of it, and And then I'm like basically clicking on another thread as soon as I'm up to that one. So right now I just finished. I'm going to click enter on my keyboard. It's done. And now I'm going to switch back to tan. I'm going to do this part right here of his face and then keep going. Awesome. So we have this part of it done, and I'm going to go. So actually, let me explain this too, because I don't want to assume that you guys know everything. So right here is hide selected. So what I did on my mouse is I right clicked the thing I'm basically going to choose, and I'm going to click hide selected. And what this does is that it hides everything behind the background. So I'm sorry, it hides exactly what you just stitched out. And if you want to like say like do one of the eyes, or if you want to like get this little detail, which I'm going to do, so I'm going to go right here and start digitizing this. And you know, since obviously the thread or the stitch was in the way, I can't see what's behind it, so that's why I have to hide it. And then that looks like it. And then I'm going to do this part right here, is little eyebrow shadow, whatever you want to call this thing. Oh, and you can go back, by the way, if you click backspace on your keyboard, it will bring the node back. You can just go back as far as you want. So just like that. And then I'm gonna click enter right there, and then bam, we have now his face, we have his shadows. I'm gonna do the eye later once I've digitized everything else. So once you are done with all that and you wanna bring everything back together, so say you're hiding everything and you want everything to show again, you're gonna right click anywhere and it's gonna show you unhide all. Go ahead and click that, and it's going to bring back everything that you just saw. Don't worry too much about how it looks. I know everything is like kind of just over each other. That is because we haven't sequenced anything yet, but that will be the last step. Another little fun fact about this too is what I do is that I would right click it, and then I would click hide unselected. And what this does is that it shows me the blank canvas that I was working on. So like say if I wanted to just not have anything in my way, I just want to see the picture so I can digitize that and then hide it again, you could just do it like that, and then once you're done, unhide all. So I will show you what I mean actually right here. So I'm going to click hide unselected. Now I have a blank canvas, makes it easier for me to see what I'm working with. I'm going to click the color that I need, and I'm just going to go through this. So this right here, and bam. Let's do the other side too. And bam. Awesome. So now that part of his hand is done, I'm gonna now just click escape, because so what escape does is escape on your keyboard basically unselects everything. So if you want to if you don't want to just click somewhere else, you can just click escape and it just unselects everything. Okay, so now we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna finish up this little part right here, this right here. So this issue is what I'm talking about, is I can't really see his hand on this side because this part is in the way. So I'm going to click, I could either do either, but I'm going to hide selected just to show you this side. Hide selected, and then I'm going to go back in, and I am now going to digitize over it. Clicked enter, and we are done with the hand. We're now going to do the opposite side as well. So I did this side, and now we need to do the lighter shade. Let's do that real quick. I'm going to hide this so I can see every part of the hand. So I'm going to start right here, and then just go ahead and start digitizing it. Alright, bam. So we're now done with this part. I'm going to unhide everything and see the progress. It looks like I am missing this part of his hand, so let me go ahead and digitize this real quick. Boom. Now I'm just gonna unhide everything and check it all out. Alright, so we're looking good so far. Well, the next part is going to be outlining. I'm going to outline his hand first, and then I'm going to move on to his face after. So since we already finished the hand, we're just going to go ahead and... Now this is the best part about it, is the trick that I was telling you guys, is you're going to right-click it, click Hide Unselected, and now you can just outline anything that you want because you can see everything. None of the stuff that you just saw is in the way. So little fingertips first, so maybe actually, let me try this real quick. I wanted to see this part. So another way you can also do it, if you just want to see, like, say this part and this part, you can just right click them both, click hide unselected. So let me actually do that again for you. I was a little too fast. Sorry. I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to hold left control on my keyboard. I'm going to click this. This is the picture, the actual picture that is, you know, the commission, the one that is sent, and I'm going to right click it then. I'm going to click hide unselected, and now I have both of those things inside the photo. If you didn't do that, it would just show one stuff, not the other. So if I just click that and then click hide unselected, you would just see that. So obviously I want both, so I can do them both. And there you go. I'm going to click digitize open shape now because we are going to be outlining something. We are going to go with triple run instead of satin because we are doing the inner sides of the outlines. We want thinner lines, not thicker ones. So we're going to go ahead and start doing that now. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing. It is a very tedious job, and you just got to keep doing this until you perfect it, you know. Well, it looks like that's it for that side. So now what I'm going to do, actually, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do this part right here. So now why I just deleted all that and went back up to do it again is because I want it all on one strand. So I want everything to be on one line, and I refuse to click enter until I have everything. And what that does is that it helps your machine to not cut it as much. Less time in front of the machine, and there's less time to stitch, because every time that you cut something, the machine has to stop, cut it, and then go back into it. So by doing this, you kind of eliminate that little bit of minutes, and those minutes, like, honestly really matter because you just get faster time to do the next project. That's it. All right, we're all done. Enter. I'm gonna do this little part right here, this little knuckles, and that one too, why not? And this one right here, I was trying to get. There you go. Now it's gonna look a lot more cleaner, and we're gonna click right click, unhide all, and look at that hand. It looks a lot better. It looks a lot cleaner. You can see the outline and you can see the contrast. So we're now gonna push on to the next one, which is the rest of his face. So digitize close shape, click the fill, go back to tatami, don't change that just yet. I'm gonna hide this real quick. I'm gonna right click it, hide select it again because I want to see everything right here. I don't want to miss this little parts. And I'm just gonna go right there and go through it. There we go. Now we're gonna click enter. Now we have that side of his face. And we're gonna get the brown part too, which is that part. I'm gonna hide select it again, so I want to see it. And we're gonna get this little part right here that we're missing. Gonna click fill, and I'm actually gonna do something right here. So we're not gonna do another step. A new step that I was gonna do for his eyeball, but since we're already here, I'm gonna do it so I don't have to do it later. So let me show you. So you have this part right here, right? When I look at it, it kind of looks weird because the stitch angle is wrong. So what you could do is you can go over here in this digitize subsection, click add stitch angles, and then you're gonna go ahead and just go perpendicular to the line. So just do this for certain instances like this one. This one needs to be perpendicular. So I'm gonna go ahead and go right here. So that's perpendicular to it. Just gonna keep going down, perpendicular, perpendicular, and another perpendicular. Press enter, and now the line looks like that. So it's now straight across, and it looks a lot more cleaner. And we're now just gonna, just rinse and repeat it. What I'm gonna do actually instead is I'm just gonna copy and paste it. Keep doing that. These are another tricks of the trade that you learn is to how to get stuff done really quick and really fast without, you know, doing more work. So like that. Now I saved myself a bunch of time just from, I didn't save myself a bunch of time, but I saved myself about a couple seconds just from doing that again. When it, you know, all of them are gonna look exactly the same. So there's two ways to crop this off, which is this little tail, obviously, that we don't need, that's outside of the shape. You can either click reshape right here in your edit objects, or you can hotkey it, which is the letter H for hotel. So H, it does the reshape for you, and you don't have to do that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to show you, since we already know reshape, I am now going to show you knife. So what knife does is that exactly what it does, it just cuts off stuff like a knife. You're just going to left click, and then you're going to left click where you want to basically cut it off, and then you're going to click enter after that. And what it does is it cuts off a little piece. That'll be super helpful if you're doing borders and you want to cut off some part of it. See, I'm not going to knife that off, it's just easier to do like that, and then I'm done. Adjust that a little bit. I need to adjust the angle because it looks like it moved. Okay, good. Knife this one off too. There, all right, knife. Cut it off, click enter. Good, delete it. Let's go ahead and get this eye situated. So go back to digitize. Digitize close shape because we're doing this coloring in. Okay, we're gonna do the eyeballs first. Do this part. Okay. Oh, that's all right. My bad. That is his people. All right, so we're gonna go right here, and that should be good. Boom, enter. We're gonna do again, like I was gonna hold this off until the eyeball, but since we're already here, like I said, we're gonna do it over there. We're gonna add stitch angles too. So you're gonna make this look as round as possible, and by doing that, you need to add stitch angles. So you're just gonna make them perpendicular to the actual drawing, so like that. So now it looks more perpendicular, it looks cleaner, and that is exactly what we want. We're gonna go ahead and hide that so we can move on to the next piece, which is gonna be, it looks like the pupil. So let's do this part. This one's a little bit tricky because he has this little glint in his eye, and I do want to get that because I want it to look as good as possible. However, be careful when you do those little parts, like these little details of the eyeball I could do because I'm doing a really huge version of him. If you're doing very tiny portraits, like say, like depending on what your hoop size is, it can really mess with that. So if you want to know what your hoop size is, so mine up here, I probably should address this too, is your hoop. So your hoop right here, break this into a little section to the actual video, but my hoop is a baby lock. It is a baby lock embroidery professional or a baby lock array, depending on what you guys have. You know, it could be, some people have, like, let's see, Brothers Innovations, 950, you know, whatever you guys have, you're gonna choose that and go along with that because that is what hoops that you guys are supplied. My hoop is 180 by 130 millimeters, or 100 by 100, or 300 by 200. However, for you guys, I don't know what your hoop sizes are, but you need to make sure that you put the correct one in. Check your manufacturer or check your hoop that you have on you. It should say it on there. And look it up, because when you actually export this design, you're going to put it into your machine and it's going to say design cannot be read because it is the size is not supported on this machine. And the reason being is because you picked a bigger hoop export than what your machine is able to do. So do it in the capabilities and choose the correct size so that your machine can actually do it. Especially if you're digitizing for other people, make sure that you ask them what their hoop size is, you know, what hoop size it is, what they're digitizing on, give them the right extension as well. So hide that, do the black of his pupil. It looks like it's going to be up here actually. So right here, go down there. This eyeball's weird. Okay, we'll do it like that. Hopefully that comes out good. We'll see. I would break it up in 2 parts, but I didn't want to because I want to save time. Ooh, I hope this comes out good. Heck yeah, it does. It looks clean. Wait, oh, I missed something. I'm missing maybe the top part of his eyeball. Or his pupil, sorry. Let's get that in there. Ooh, look at that. Looks good. I love when that stuff comes out correct. Alright, and then let's do this little glint. And add that right there. I'm gonna make it satin, because why not? I like to be bougie like that. To give a little overview of when your digitizing fills, why you should use tatami or why you should use fill. This is why, or satin, sorry. This is why. Tatami, you can layer it multiple times, and it's a little bit more forgiving because it's more flatter. There's less, I guess, like volume inside of it. However, with satin, it's a lot more thicker. Your needle is more rough to get through it, so there's more pressure built into that stitch. And if you try to put like multiple satins, like say like 3, 4, that thing is going to break under pressure. So what you want to do to combat that is you want to do it only once, maybe twice. Sometimes my satins do overlap. That's because I'm outlining them and they overlap sometimes, and that's okay. But if you're doing it just for the mess of it, you know, you're gonna mess it up. So prevent that by doing the correct situation first, and that is by not doing it too much. When I click unhide all, that is how his eye is gonna look. It's fantastic. Like for embroidery, that is fantastic, and that actually needs to be moved up. But that satin right there, there's not much in the way. It's only it's the first thing that's on top, so nothing else is going on top of it. So let me actually go back. I'm gonna hide, unselect that again. I'm gonna do his. I think I'm gonna do his eyebrow as well, satin, because it looks like, you know, I want this to stand out as much as possible. So I think I'm gonna do that for this one too. It's gonna be a little bit tougher because his eyebrow is not traditional eyebrow. It's not like it's supposed to be, I guess, like messier, manlier, whatever you wanna call it, and it's more like hairy. So that's why like they have these little hair things right here. And he's missing an eyebrow on that side. It's weird. So that's how it kind of looks. Kind of looks like a really big caterpillar. So I'm gonna now add these stitch angles. You're gonna make a perpendicular for this one as well, and we'll see how that looks. I'm not too sure. See, that kind of looks weird. Let me bring it back to tatami. It's really hard. I think I'm actually gonna keep it tatami. Just like looking at it from zoomed out, it looks a little better. But when I change it to satin, it kind of looks awkward. It kind of looks like it's out of place. So that's kind of like another reason why you don't want to overdo it with satin, because it's very bulky and it's very shiny. So if you put like satin everything, it's gonna look out of place, a little awkward. And we are now gonna resequence everything. So this one, I am just, you know, just for the heck of it, I am going to bring it all to the front. I'm gonna hide this actually so you guys can start seeing it. You're gonna start seeing it get slowly formed into what it was supposed to be, and it looks like we forgot this little part. So what I just did right now actually is I am gonna hide this. I'm gonna hide selected so I can see what I'm missing. So if there's any like spots in the thing, that means I'm missing it. And obviously right here I forgot something. So I'm gonna go back in, boom, or now boom. And we're gonna go to sequence. I'm gonna bring that down here actually. Where does it need to go? There it needs to go. Cool.
So I had to do a voiceover of this because as I was reviewing it, I noticed that I may have not explained it as good as I should have. So I'm here to tell you what I'm doing. So I'm moving all of the thread colors onto the same exact tile. So you see me dragging and dropping it over to the same colors. That's exactly what I'm doing. And then from there, I'm just going to rearrange everything to make sure that it is all sequenced correctly so that you can see them and nothing's underneath anything. So as you follow along with me, that's exactly what I'm doing. However, I am keeping the black separate. A good rule of thumb I've always done is that any colors that I do, as soon as I'm done doing that, I have the outline or the black right after that coloring. So that is exactly what I was doing right there. And then the rest of it is just simply moving around the colors too and grouping them together as you see fit.
So say you have this hand right here. When do you want to have it stitched out? The answer is right after it disappears. So it disappeared, now I want it right there. When do I, knuckles wise, like they're not as big because they're not as like precise. You need it like precise. But I'm gonna put it right after it's stitched out. So all that is gonna be, I'm gonna put all this right here. So all this should be right after. Now, for my other designs, these have more colors. There's a lot more, and if I click this, guess where it is? It is right after that. This one too. This one is right after. You can't really see it, but the whole thing, see? It's right after it.
To recap what I just explained, is basically whenever you stitch out something, aka colors, as soon as you put more colors on top of it, your design is going to slowly move to the left and the right and up and down, and that is because of pole compensation. push and pull. So to counteract that, what you want to do is you want to put the outline right after the color. And by doing that, it will make sure that as soon as you move it from the other colors, your outline will stay exactly where it was because you did it right after that color.
I'm not sure if I actually taught you guys how to digitize a hole, but we're not going to learn it. So to digitize a hole, it's this little click right here. You're going to highlight whatever you want to make a hole on. So for me, this is right here. So I'm going to click digitize hole. The reason why I do this is because there is a lot of stitching right here, and I want to give it as much room to breathe. And by having this part underneath it, this little part where the eye is supposed to be, it's creating a useless layer, so to speak, on top of the eye, because there's nothing underneath it, or I'm sorry, there is something underneath it, but it doesn't add any value to the actual photo or the actual digitizing. So I'm going to remove it by adding a hole. And what that does is now, so I'll show you. So I'm gonna like basically of how you would digitize something. You would just, left click, right click. So just, click where I want it out of the picture. So right here, right here. I'm not gonna go too close because I don't want it to like accidentally push and be missing a hole. Like you'll actually see a hole. And then right here, and that's good. It's not too much, but it's not too little. And I'm going to click enter. So before I click enter, actually take a look at this right here. It says 39,078. What this also does is it's a benefit to you because you get to lower your stitch count if you are layering multiple colors at the same time. So we're at 39,023. Not a whole lot, but that's like, it's really huge when it comes to the actual canvas, because when you have like a little hoodie, it might cause like some puckering because you have so much built-in tension in this one area. Because like say his eye, there's so much built-in tension right here because I have his eyelash, his eyeball, his pupil, his little glint right here. I have this little blue strand going down here. All that is a lot of pressure. So another thing, like that's how you prevent it, is by adding holes where you don't need this color. So I don't need that skin tone color right there, so I'm gonna hide it. So now it is looking like that. It looks really creepy, but that is what it looks like. And now when it stitches out, it's going to leave that hole open, so the eye just goes perfectly in between that.
That is everything, guys. I have walked you dang near through the whole entire steps, and if you guys have any questions, I did have to cut out quite a bit out of this video because there was just so much information that was all redundant. So if I missed anything, please let me know down in the comment section below. I did this for you guys, and I really hope this helped you. And this is how your final product should look at the end of it. It looks pretty dang good. I would love to see your guys' work, and send it to me through my DM on Instagram, or if you guys want to hit me up on TikTok. Either way, I would love to see what you guys made. So leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next video.